Hello, you're listening to UNS Talks, a podcast series by UNStudio, International Architecture and Design Firm, hosted by me, Machteld Kors. Today we have a special episode. We're sitting down together with Ben van Berkel, founder and principal architect of UNStudio, and we will be talking about observations of 2023, and we will look forward to what's coming up in 2024. Welcome, Ben.
Hi.
Great to have you here. We'd like to start reflecting a bit about what happened in 2023, and you have been traveling a lot, and just like to understand what has been the most impactful during your travels, or what inspired you during your travels across the globe.
The most inspiring was to be in China and also Hong Kong. In Shanghai, I discovered that it was suddenly a totally different city, less traffic, less people maybe also.
What was the last time when you were in Shanghai?
Maybe the last time in Shanghai was, I think, in 2018, 19 even. It was all before COVID.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't travel, and we know that China was maybe for the longest, not accessible anymore. But it was a totally different city. But the fascinating part was that now many cars are electric. So almost 40 to 50% are electric cars. What you see in the city there, so less smog, clean air. The city was actually back to life again.
Yeah.
But it was as if I was in an, maybe I don't want to say Switzerland, but in a clean city.
Wow.
And I felt a new kind of optimism and a new kind of desire to be also part of the new world, in the sense of we want to be more sustainable, we want to be more progressive, we want to pick up that what we left in maybe the period before COVID, and a new form of optimism was there.
What are the most important topics in Asia at the moment when we talk about real estate and development of architecture and urban planning?
Luckily enough, there is a new form of understanding around community building, to be careful with monofunctional living, they built so much over the last years, areas where you see only the same towers, not enough amenity spaces. So community building is maybe already in the culture of...
Is it lacking the human scale? Because we here tend to talk about human-centered design.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a discussion, nicely enough, in the last conferences I was about what is now exactly human-centric design. And human-centric design is there to be considered not so exciting, because it is seen as being a designer who designs for individuals, and that's not in the common language of the Chinese culture. So they tend, luckily enough, more to think in communities.
So they'd rather talk about community-centered design, and is that what they...
Yeah, or maybe more social, community-based, integral design for everyone, where everyone gets the same shares. So I like that a lot. So that was also always a bit ambition, you could say, in China, in urban planning. But you see that the new discussions we have here around ESG and health, for instance, the topic around healthy environments, is there becoming also very popular in the way how it can be implemented in architecture and urban design.
Is ESG a topic already in Asia, like environmental, social, governance aspects, really?
Yeah, not that it is implemented tomorrow, but that it is at least in the discussion of the major investors I find interesting. And don't forget, what a lot of people might not know, in the board or in the CEO, let's say, group of members in the companies, often these are also academics or professors at universities, and they like to be up to date with the latest information of how they can improve environmental thinking.
Yeah. So you have been traveling. You were talking about Shanghai. We have an office in Hong Kong also,
Yeah.
UNStudio. So where were you there for?
Oh, in Hong Kong, I was there for the BODW. That's a conference, a design conference in architecture, or maybe you could say a conference around creativity and everything to do with design in the world of the field where we are. Um, but that was a conference really exciting with a lot of, yeah, again, policymakers, academics, architects, and designers. So that was, yeah, an interesting moment. And I was there also um, to visit again with a lot of people to see the lyric theater what we are building right now, and it was exciting because I mean a lot of people love, of course, to see yeah, the construction in development and yeah,
What are the challenges in that project? Because in scale, it's amazing. It's 3 theaters in one.
yeah, it's a major theater project, three major theaters in one site. It's next to the M Plus and the Kowloon side of Hong Kong. You will see it on the waterfront. But the challenge there was to build on an yeah, metro or high speed train system as well, and a road what goes underneath the location. And for that reason, we had to build it on 650 springs, three theaters who needed to be built box in box, so that you don't have the sound coming only from underneath, but also not going from theater to theater, and to bring in a lot of lobby areas for each theater, maintenance spaces, rehearsal spaces for the dancers, wonderful cafes and restaurants we have on the waterfront side. Waterfront part we had to integrate into the design. I mean, it's a wonderful project.
Exciting. And if we continue your path of traveling, then well, we come all the way to Melbourne.
Yeah,
We've opened an office there.
yeah,
And can you maybe talk a bit and explain a bit on what we're working there?
yeah. We have in Melbourne this wonderful green spine project. It is a two-tower project with a major plinth on the lower part of the project. The key is maybe of that project that we activate the South Bank area or the south part of Melbourne. That is an area what is not so lively. But with this whole program, mixed set of programs on the location, we can connect the project much better to the rest of the city, and with that make it more lively with clockwise activities, you could say. And yeah, the beauty of yeah, the wonderful client is here that we could bring in also a cultural program. The Centre Pompidou Center agreed on having dependance of the yeah, museum in that project, connecting not only cultural activities with mixed use and conference center what's going to be there, with also a wonderful idea of to serve the people who are going to live in that project, so that they could meet each other. Again, this is a project full on community building for the owners of the project, but also particularly for the whole neighborhood and this part of the city of Melbourne.
Wow, that's super interesting. And if we then continue the path back to Europe and also talk about community building, then maybe it's good to touch on an amazing project that's currently under construction, and it's I think the most dense project in Europe. It's the For Frankfurt project. We opened an office in Frankfurt. We grew until around 15 or 20 people there now. What makes this project so important for the city of Frankfurt?
Mm, Frankfurt is already quite an unusual city in Europe anyway. Huh? If you think about the amount of skyscrapers to be found there, it is said that the density and the amount of high rises you find there, that they are connected to also a sort of American influence after the war. And you can see that really if you move around that city there, it's a very unusual city. But certain parts of the inner part of the city are not, again, as lively and accessible as we know. So the Deutsche Bank had an area where for 40 years people could not enter that part of the city. And it was also not a nice part of the city where you would like to walk around after 8 o'clock in the night. So what the client here liked was to bring in, together with the city, an, a very dense project to the site, 4 towers, connecting the 4 towers to the 4 neighborhoods in the area again, and bringing also in the plinth a set of activities there into the project so that it would connect not only the neighborhoods, but also that it would create a kind of integral square with a rounded plinth on top of that, and with that, the 4 towers to be connected to that onto the side, so that you would keep people on the side there, and that you, with that, also bring again liveliness to the location and different user groups to the location. And in the project are hotels, social housing, affordable housing, high-end and luxury housing as well. So it's almost a little village on its own.
Isn't it incredible challenging to build so much in the like in such a dense area of a city? Like how can you build in an in a very dense city? Like how do you do that construction wise also?
This density of the city and this small site we had was also a huge challenge in the way
Yeah.
how we had to build a project. You're right, and the method was here to make an highly advanced planning strategy of how the materials and all the goods had to come in a way on the site. Um, and that was when I was there in the beginning on the building site, such exciting thing to see, because it was almost as if you looked at the train station where constantly cars came in and out to bring in the sand and the concrete, and it was like a constant loop of integral planning of how materials had to come in and out on the location. And and normally, you're right, you would have the possibility to store your materials on the site, but it was not
Exactly.
possible
Yeah.
here. So we had to plan that very carefully. And maybe also bring in a new building methodology, because what is quite difficult to do in modular building is to do high rises with that. I mean, so but we did it here. We worked with a lot of bigger and smaller details on the project, who could be not be not be otherwise be brought to the side, because otherwise we had to build the whole project in situ, and that was
Yeah.
impossible on such a
Yeah.
dense location.
So Ben, talking about some topics that are very present, like densification, but we also see with the economic downturn that transformation of cities and densification are super important themes. Do you have currently projects that you see as a good example of transformation and densification, and including all these topics that are currently very actual in our practice?
Oh yes, like for instance, the latest project we are working on right now is in Spain. The wonderful Chamartin station. It's one of the biggest stations in Europe, with many train lines and high-speed train lines to be connected to that, and even more in the future. Here, we didn't look anymore at a traditional train station. We said, how could we bring in a new form of celebration of traveling back to the city, and could we not make a new transfer hub for the city, whereby you stimulate with more program, more activities around the station, where you also could nicely wait, um, more program. So more densification, more like from education to from learning to work to housing, to even leisure, with a park around the site. So even a dense location with a park around the site to this urban hub, and with that stimulate far more public transport, because that's I believe is the future of making these train stations more attractive again. Because I mean the aspect of this joy of traveling was always part of well-designed train stations, like the Grand Central is for me always a beautiful example. But most of the train stations, at least in Europe, became a bit the backyard of the city, and people didn't want to be in these stations anymore. They attracted very negative qualities.
So will the old station remain, or
Yeah,
yeah,
part of,
totally?
yeah, part of the old station will be remain, and that's I think why we won also partly the competition, because we argued for a circular project in a way, reducing with that the carbon footprint, operational footprint in a way also. And with this, we said we could reduce cost, but also speed up the planning, but maybe also do something really exciting, because the old station is having a series of articulated forms where we said, I mean, they're nice, and let's totally renovate the old station, and let's see if that is possible, and extend some of the ideas of the old station in the new station or the new hub.
That's a and sorry, we're jumping a bit from project to project, but I think that it would be interesting to talk a bit about one of the major projects, inner city projects that have been completed last year, which is the city campus here in Amsterdam, that for the headquarters of Booking.
Yeah.
And maybe you can explain a bit why this project is so special.
Yeah, the project became so special because we intuitively could implement together with the client certain things we never thought that they would score so high on topics where a lot of investors are now interested in, and that is ESG, making a new type of workspace for the employee, who today have far more other requests around the workspace than ever before. The topic of health was totally fully implemented in this project. Aspect you could call physical health, or walkability, and you could say physical health is also having to deal with good acoustics, maybe good air quality. Air doesn't roll through the space anymore. I mean, it's sucked up maybe vertically, and with that we are able to reduce sick leave. Um, the social aspect of health, community building, so you don't have any formal, or not many formal workspaces in this project anymore, but a lot of breakout space where people can gather around the restaurants, cafes, and they're so popular that here Booking was able to bring in almost all their employees back to the office, whereas before that was almost impossible. So the project became in a way, and you could say, a recruiting building with an architecture that attracts so much that people, and that these are the stories we heard afterwards, but that's why I'm saying it happened intuitively in a way, that they feel as if they work in a resort.
Yes, but the project started before COVID. Um, so the brief also evaluated over time.
Yeah.
What was the most important subject for the client to achieve in this building?
Oh, the client was highly interested in the fact that they would become the best tech company to work for. And they're already big in their, everyone thinks that Booking.com is kind of a travel platform, but that is not the case. They work with so many complex data, and it's a real tech company. And that's why they have, more than over 10,000 of people working for them in the world. But as being the headquarter, they said, yeah, we need to attract the best talent to come and work for us. So we went to many other campuses, from Facebook to Google, and they all didn't want these type of campuses. They want something totally new. And that is, of course, wonderful to have a client who's having that ambition and that desire to go beyond, what is around
Yeah.
and to develop something totally independent and new and innovative. And and luckily enough, ticked all the boxes on my own interests as well. I think that again, that's why we won again here the competition. I think because we talked a lot about how could we make an environment where people of a younger generation like to be and work in, from a community-based type of office building to a place where you can also have good food and everything what's good for you was in discussion.
Sounds like a dream project.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it is still a dream project,
Yeah.
and maybe also that I think the amount of interest we now get from so many other investors and companies who want to have a similar kind of project
So,
is wonderful.
what would be then your next dream project?
I always say that my next project is my dream project because don't forget we have a wonderful profession. Everything what we do next is exciting, and don't forget with the Booking.com project we didn't know that that would become a dream project. And dream project grows out of an incredible good way of working and collaborating with each other on a level whereby the project slowly turns into a dream project.
Okay,
So
let me phrase it differently. What inspires you then the most, or what would inspire you the most in a next project?
um, I'm highly interested lately in what AI can do for architecture, and not so much that I believe in the image making of AI, because that's my mind can do that as well. Luckily enough, my mind is even better than AI. I hope when it comes down to aesthetic choices, etc. But but I like the aspect that AI can now in 3 to 4 minutes do a study on yeah the way how you can reduce carbon footprints or be more sustainable with every variant you design. And that's only one side of the development what I see in the way how we can use AI. But if we can use AI to combine and hybridize and synthesize information much faster or more selective and more well oriented than parametric design always wanted to do, and I see that already in the way how we work, then I think that that is a major advantage for the creativity of the way how you design also, because then then the pragmatics will be sorted out sooner than you had to work on before, and then you have much more time for design and the creativity aspect of the development of the design.
So your statement is that AI creates more space for creativity,
Yeah,
and
and gives a new form of insight in the way how sustainability can support health, and health can be more supporting, who knows, circularity. So things who sound a bit like contradictory can support each other now in a far more new, innovative way.
yeah, um, because well, we can't get around it. There are a lot of societal challenges that we are facing. Like we have the energy transition. There's a huge shortage of housing. Um, what do you see as that architecture could contribute to these challenges, these societal challenges we are facing, or urban planning, or the profession
As a whole, huh?
as a whole?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that the amount of transitions where we go through are so enormous. Like you said, from energy to the way how we have to look at more housing requests here in this part of Europe is enormous. And I do believe that we have to, for that reason, rethink housing in general. I often say, for who are we then going to design more housing? Why do we not talk about student housing enough, because if I'm in the south of Europe, in Spain, for instance, a huge amount of number of student housing projects are built, and social housing projects are built. But I think that here, what I feel is that we are not getting it right, because we don't think enough about the way how we could combine economical developments in certain parts of Holland, for instance, where a potential future of expansions are possible for housing. So where do we build the housing is my question always, and does it not need to be connected to better economical areas, for instance? But that is maybe more to deal with how we plan our future. Maybe the essence to the challenges are that we have to work more with the government and the cities, or the lands, or the provinces where we are connected to. That we maybe with that innovate together more, instead of being the architect who's only thinking I can change all these transitions alone.
And Ben, one very last question. What is your resolution for 2024?
I think with everything you said before about so many transitions where we have to deal with right now in the profession, you could say that is also our challenge, because to work with so many different expansions in a way of the way how we have to incorporate that in our profession is also very exciting. So architecture is not under pressure, I would say, but we have a major challenge to re-innovate our profession with all these challenges. And don't forget, AI is almost, as we really analyze it, it's almost comparable to the way how we started to work with the computer in the beginning of the 90s in UNStudio, or the way how we have to think about energy, and the way how sustainability, circularity, health, all these topics need to be implemented in architecture. Gives a new brief for the way how we have to invent architecture in its essence.
So we're facing a very disruptive year also, with all these new tools coming up.
Yeah, and exciting, because it's also for that reason an exciting period where suddenly we have to rethink our own brief.
I think that's a good mission for 2024. Thanks a lot, Ben.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to UNS Talks. Happy 2024.